Welcome back to the Rebel Tribe podcast, the place where bold women come to remember who they are and reclaim what they were made for. Today's episode is a really special one. We're talking real confidence, not the Instagram kind, not the fake it till you make it kind, but the kind that shows up in your messy moments, your small choices, your everyday courage. My guest is the amazing Simone Knego, best-selling author, two-time TEDx speaker, and co-host of one of my favorite podcasts, Her Unshakable Confidence, which she co-hosts with her daughter, Olivia. Simone's not here to give you a highlight reel. She's here to talk about reframing self-doubt, owning your impact, and choosing confidence even when it feels miles away. So if you've ever looked in the mirror and wondered, who even am I anymore? This conversation is your reminder that you're still in there and you're more powerful than you think. So let's dive in. Simone, I'm so pleased to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
As I said, I have been watching your podcast for a little bit now. Big fan. I love the fact that you're able to do it with your daughter. I can't quite imagine me doing one with my daughter, but maybe.
You never know, right? If you don't ask, you'll never know.
Let's get right into it because you talk about kitchen table leadership. So, for the women that are listening that feel ordinary or invisible, what does that term really mean?
So we've been sold this narrow view of what leadership is. It's the corner office, it's the boardroom, it's the title, and I believe leadership is what happens behind the scenes, right? So many of the decisions we make happen around the kitchen table. And when you think about leadership, right, the decisions that you make every day, those are leadership decisions. If you didn't make that decision, something else wouldn't have happened. And we never give ourselves credit for that, right? Nobody's ever called us a leader if we don't have the title, but that's so not true. It's really the messy moments. Like all think of all the things that you do on a daily basis, all of the decisions you have to make. Those are leadership decisions. We just have to look at them differently.
I agree. I agree. I love the fact that you're able to put that into words because so many women think that what they do is not leadership, and it truly, truly is. Now, I just finished your first book, The Extraordinary, Unordinary You. When did you first realize that your story mattered?
Mm. So I am someone that really struggled with self-doubt for years. I didn't think I had a story. I was doing some volunteer work and I had someone ask me if I was willing to share my story to raise money for an organization. And my response was, "What story?" I really didn't think that what I was doing in my life made a difference. So the fact that I had six children and the volunteer work that I did, I always was looking at everybody else thinking that they had it all together and they were doing all the things. And so it was in that moment where I was asked to share my story and I shared my story, my life story, that I realized that, wait, we're all making a difference. It's not the person over there or the person over there. It's all of us. But we need to look at ourselves differently. We truly have to change the way we see ourselves.
Well, I think the fact that you raised six kids is story material right there. I can only imagine the adventures.
Yeah, adventures is a nice way of saying it.
Well, I only have two, and I know what that was like, so I can't imagine six.
Yeah.
But you have raised six kids, and you've spoken on TEDx stages, and you've written books. What's something what's something that your bio doesn't capture about the woman behind the work?
Mm, that's a great question. So I think really what it doesn't capture is that how I used to talk about myself, right? I mean, the transformation that I've had. I used to call myself just an ordinary girl, just Rob's wife, just a volunteer, just a stay-at-home mom. And, so those are the ways I started. And so when you look at my resume now, you're like, oh, wow, she's done some things. Well, it took me a long time to get there, right? And that's why I encourage every woman out there, every person out there to start doing things. Like, don't wait for someone else to ask. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, does my bio talk about Kilimanjaro? Some of them do, but like that's something completely that I would have never done. That was really to get me out of my comfort zone.
No, I missed Kilimanjaro. Do tell.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so in 2015, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I am not a climber. I live in Florida. I have 16 steps in my house, right? That's as far as the climbing went for me. And that was the transformational moment for me in my life that I was asked to do something completely out of my comfort zone. A friend of ours had climbed it the year before, and they actually asked my husband if he was interested, and basically he counted to three and said, no, thank you. Ask Simone. And I got the call and I said yes. And I said yes for a couple of reasons. One, I used to be the yes girl, right? I didn't want to disappoint anybody. I was a people pleaser. And, I always thought that I was letting people down when I said no. Um, didn't know the scale of what I was getting myself into at this point. And then the second piece is that I knew I needed to get out of my comfort zone. I knew that I needed to shake things up a little bit because I did, like, the way I was talking about myself and talking to myself was so unhealthy. And it was that moment of awareness that said, okay, you need to do something different. So 16 of us, complete strangers, and we all summited 19,341 feet. And it was life changing for me because I realized I didn't have to worry about what anybody else was thinking. I didn't have to compare myself to anybody else, right? We're all doing amazing things where we are, but so often we look for that external validation, and that's not what we need. We need the internal validation. We need to be telling ourselves that we're doing a good job. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. And that is what the biggest part of the transformation for me is really looking at myself and saying, okay, yes, you're doing amazing things.
Well, now we just added something else to her resume, ladies. TEDx speaker, author, and now mountain climber.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah.
My community, the Rebel Tribe, they are full of women that are working to rebuild their confidence. Maybe I need to send them all to Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
But in but what's the biggest lie that you think we've been told about confidence?
You're either born with it or you're not. That would be, I'll give you two. You're either born with it or you're not, or that it's something other people have and you just don't. It doesn't work that way. It's a skill like any other skill. You build it, right? You don't learn a language in one day, right? You practice, you practice, you practice. You don't go to the gym one time and get fit. You have to practice, you have to put in the work. And it's the same thing with our mindset. Like, why would we think that, like, we do things one time and then we're okay forever? No, it's a constant work. So, I mean, even now, like every day, there are things that I do every single day to keep me in check. Do I have that voice inside my head? Yes, everybody does. We have that. I call it the what if whisperer in my world. I've named her so I can separate myself from her. Her name is Sally Fine, which stands for freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. And that way, when something happens, I'm like, is that really me or is that Sally? Okay. And most of the time, it's the story that we tell ourselves, right? We're telling ourselves negative stories. And most of the time, they are not real.
I love that. A name for our imposter syndrome has a name. I love it.
Name her, ladies, name her because, it really does. It separates yourself from that voice to say, okay, here comes the voice. What do I do? And I have a whole mindset hack for that too. So when I get that negative voice starting, I'm like, okay, is this real? Is this helpful? So I've named it something very creative. It's called Control Alt Delete. Yes, very creative. So back in the day, that was how we would reset a frozen computer. Now it brings up Task Manager. Don't know what Task Manager does, but that's what it does. But sometimes our minds freeze too, right? We spiral in self-doubt. We get stuck in the comparison game. So control is about awareness, right? Is the story you're telling yourself true? Is it helpful? Most of the time, the answer is no. The second part is alt, which is alternative. Tell yourself a better story. Instead of telling yourself that you can't do something, yes, you can. Why can't you do it, right? Like, why are you telling yourself you can't? And instead of saying that, like, oh, what if I fail? How about when I succeed? And finally, delete the habits and beliefs that don't serve you. Delete the comparison game, delete the belief that you're not enough, and delete the apology. How many times do we apologize for something when it's not necessary? Every time we say things to ourselves or about ourselves that are negative, that's what we believe, right? Your thoughts become your reality. So why not tell yourself a better story? Like, do you want to wake up every morning and say, today's just going to be the worst day ever? Or do you want to wake up and say, wow, I'm going to do amazing things today? You have that choice. Doesn't matter what external factors are there. You still have that choice of how you move through your life.
Well, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that doesn't know what the task manager does. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah,
You've raised 6 kids. That to me just still, that's a lot of kids. How
it's a
has
lot of
motherhood,
kids. Yeah.
how, how does motherhood change a woman's identity, and how do we start reclaiming who we are outside the roles of, I mean, we still hear it. I get on social media and I see it all the time. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a this, and down here at the bottom somewhere is, oh yeah, and I'm also a businesswoman. How do we switch that? How do we start reclaiming who we are outside of being wife and mom?
Yeah, I mean, again, that goes back to where how I would talk about myself, right? It's I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I'm just so and so's wife. Okay, first of all, drop the just. You're not just anything, but it really is about kind of looking at what you really want in your life. And I think we'll probably talk about this in a little bit, but part of the method that I created when I went through this transformation, I looked back and said, okay, what how did I get here? Like, what are the things that I did to go from really doubting myself all the time to, saying, okay, this is where I want to be. This is exactly who I am. I'm not putting up the facade anymore. And one of the big things was about asking myself what I wanted. For so long, as women, as wives, as mothers, we go through our lives taking care of everybody else, right? They need this, they need that, and we put everybody else before we do for ourselves. And that idea of putting on your mask first, I mean, that's self-care, right? So we have to think about self-care in a way that is saying, okay, do I have time for this? Yes, you have time for this. And the reclaiming part is really, so it starts with, if I can talk about my real method now, that would probably make the most sense. But if we start with, so the word real, the R stands for respect yourself. And that is such a big piece in terms of reclaiming who we are. As a kid, I was taught to respect the adults around me, right? My teachers, my peers. Uh, but never once do I remember being taught that the most important person to respect is myself. And really understanding the importance of setting boundaries and talking to yourself like you would your best friend, right? I mean, we say things to ourselves that we would never say to our best friend. We're going to live with ourselves forever. So why do we treat ourselves the way we do, right? I think that is such an important piece. And that idea of when we start to respect ourselves, we understand what we're capable of and we can look to do the things that we actually want instead of waiting for someone else to tell us what to do.
You do have a new book coming out called Real Confidence. What does real confidence look like when life feels messy and uncertain and loud with that imposter syndrome driven self-doubt? What does real confidence look like?
It means that you're able to get back up no matter what happens. We're not going to focus on, oh, I failed at something, therefore I'm a failure. I mean, we're all going to have moments where we get knocked down. It's not saying that nothing's going to happen, but it's that understanding of that you're capable of regrouping and saying, you know what, that was a bump in the road. Like that's not going to be the defining moment for me. So, and again, it's all about building yourself to that point. It's a completely different mindset. It's really changing how you see yourself. We so often talk about changing, right? You got to change this. You got to get the bigger car. You got to get the bigger bank account. You have to whatever changes you think you have to make because that will make you happier. But what's going to make you happier is changing the way you see yourself. You are going to live with yourself the rest of your life, right? You can't get away from yourself. So the you have to figure out how to love the person that you're looking at in the mirror. And that's really what real confidence is. It's really about understanding what you're capable of, believing in yourself, and talking to yourself like you would your best friend. And that the book is really teaching you how to implement the real method in your life. There's a bunch of different frameworks and exercises to work through. And I'm super excited for it to come out because I know for me, using that method, it was life changing. It's exactly where I am today because of what I went through and saying, none of this stuff is important. Why am I worrying about what anybody else thinks? They're really not thinking about me, right? I mean, that's like always the funniest part is that we have these ideas like, oh my gosh, what if they judge me? What if they this? They're not thinking about us, right? And if they are, those are not your people.
So you say there's a lot of different activities or things to do in the book. Can you share one? What's like a small daily thing that we can do to build confidence?
Yeah, something first thing in the morning is say something positive to yourself, right? I mean, it's not about faking it until you make it. It's about saying it until you become it. So at the end of each chapter, there's a keeping it real section and different exercises for each one. But a big thing for me is I am statements, like to tell myself what I am capable of, especially if I know I'm going to be having a really hard day or if I have a really big pitch or whatever I'm doing. It's a reminder for myself before I even move out of bed. I start telling myself something positive. So that's how I start my day. And the second thing I would say is the way I end my day is with gratitude. So I could be having the worst day ever, but I still make sure that I end with telling myself something positive because again, when I go to sleep, I'm not going to sleep if I'm like all up in my head about how horrible the day went. So there's always something that I'm grateful for. It could be something really tiny, like I had the best latte of my life. Who knows what it is? But it's that idea of saying, I'm really grateful for this today because it really changes how you feel. And, there's so much science around, positive affirmations and gratitudes and how it really changes your neural pathways. And so if we can tell ourselves negative things all day long, why can't we tell ourselves positive things and believe them? Just want you to think
Yeah,
about that.
have $1 million question there. We do it all the time. Can you share a
Yeah.
story maybe from the book where you absolutely didn't feel confident, and what got you through it?
Mm. Lots of stories. So I would say one of the things that when I talk about embracing failure, so for a period of time, I flipped houses. We would buy houses, and I had a partner. We would buy houses, fix them up, and then sell them. And we got caught in one of the big housing drops and, basically lost the houses. And therefore, we lost our credit. And it was very difficult for me because my husband is a physician. Like he does amazing work. We went to get a car and we couldn't get the car financed because my credit was so bad. And, it wasn't, he was not upset, right? He was like, okay, well, okay, how do we move forward instead of focusing on that? So, but that was a moment for me where I felt horrible, right? I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, I suck at everything. Like, I can't even do this. And it wasn't true. Like, it was a moment in time. It was a bad decision. And guess what? Our credit is great now, right? Like, so, but it was that in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, what are we ever going to do? Like we focus on these small details, and yeah, that was a big one for me. But I was able to kind of say, okay, you're right. Like, let's move forward, and I'm not going to focus on this.
Can we talk a little bit about your podcast? Like I said, I'm a big fan, and I love the fact that you co-host it with your daughter. She's what?
Yeah,
She's like 22, I think.
yeah, she's 22.
So you co-host a podcast with your 22-year-old daughter. What has that taught you about how younger women see confidence differently from, and what do they need to hear from us when they're that age?
Yeah. So I wish I could say that uh, everything that we struggled with, they don't struggle with. It's so not true, right? It's still, and they struggle with different things because with social media, they're seeing all the shiny moments, they're comparing themselves to the shiny moments. So really having that understanding of, okay, what's real and what's not. watching her kind of on this podcast. So it's called Her Unshakable Confidence. And the whole goal is for her to get there quicker than I did, right? I was 42 when I climbed Kilimanjaro, and that was the transformational point for me. And at 22, I can already see her transforming and not worrying about what other people think. You know, you still have that voice inside your head, but she's learning the skills to be able to say, okay, I'm not going to listen to it. I mean, you can't control it. It comes in, but it's what you do with it, right? So then watching her, the way she does things now in school. So she's a second year law student. And she was telling me a story about how the kids in her class said to her, wow, like, you're so confident when the teacher calls on you. Why is that? And she said, oh, it's because I have a podcast with my mom. I have to really think on my feet. And I thought that was so cute. I was like, oh, okay, there you go. And they're like, really? Like, you have a podcast with your mom? She's like, yeah, I've had it for 2 years now. And so, I mean, definitely the younger generation sees things differently. I mean, one really positive thing is they're more willing to talk about their struggles. They're more willing to talk about mental health, but they still have the same body image issues. And that might be even a little bit worse because of what they see on social media. But the one thing that makes me really hopeful is that, like, she'll say, oh, yeah, today on the podcast, she'll say, today when I talked to my therapist, when I was younger, you definitely would not say that in front of people you don't know, or maybe even people you do know. So I think that has changed quite a bit, which again gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah, therapy is something you definitely did not discuss with anybody back in our day at
No,
all.
no, for sure not. And so watching that generation being willing to, talk about it is, I think it's definitely a step forward.
So I have a question. If you could go back and give your 22-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
So I would say I don't like going back because I feel like everything that's happened to me or that I've done has led me to this moment in time. But if I had to go back, I would tell my 18-year-old self that I'm going to get through it. So I was when I was in high school, I had an abusive boyfriend and that was my journey to self-doubt, right? Like the things that he said to myself, I replayed in my mind forever. So really it would be about saying you're going to get through it and you need to work through it sooner than later, right? Because I stuffed it down for years. I didn't talk about it. My husband knew about it, my kids know about it, but it wasn't something that I talked about openly. And for me now, being able to openly talk about it, it really has changed so many things for me. And what I've realized too is a lot of times when we talk about what we struggle with, we open the door for others to be able to share what their struggles are. People don't want to jump in and say, here's what I struggle with. But if you're willing to share, they're willing to share as well. And it can really change someone else's life.
We said that your daughter opens up a little bit more on the podcast than you actually thought maybe she would. What's something your daughter's taught you about courage?
Mm. Yeah, she's taught me a lot about courage. I mean, so she went to college for marketing and fashion. And in the beginning of her, I think it was in the beginning of her senior year, she said, I don't want to do this. This isn't what I like. And, she did an internship that summer and it was a good internship, but she just did not find her connection. And I said, okay, what do you want to do? She goes, well, I want to go to law school. I said, okay, so do you want to take a year off, like to study for the LSAT? What do you want to do? She goes, oh no, I'm going to do it. Like, I believe that I can do this. And she worked her butt off. And not only did she get into law school, she got a full ride to law school. So, not being afraid of changing your mind is such a huge piece. I think we're so worried that, oh my gosh, what if we fail? Like, what if this isn't the right thing for us? Change your mind. It's okay. Like, you can do something different and be very happy. And, she's loving what she's doing now.
Well, that's cool. And it is positively okay to change your mind.
Yes, I've done it many times.
So, what is one belief about confidence, excuse me, or leadership that you wish every woman would just delete from their brain like today.
That do you need a title to be a leader? Like that is so ridiculous. Like you're leading from where you are, whether you're, you know, a stay-at-home mom, whether you're, retired, whatever you're doing, you're leading, right? Every decision you make, think about your decisions differently, right? I mean, when I talk about being around the kitchen table, some of the biggest decisions we've ever made have happened around the kitchen table. When we decided to adopt our youngest three children, it was a family vote. Like it had to be unanimous. And that was around the kitchen table. Was that life changing? Absolutely. Was that a leadership decision? Absolutely. Right. So I think changing that narrative of what leadership means is huge.
And hand in hand with that, what is one small but maybe courageous action that a woman can take this week to step into her power?
Yeah, do something different. Do something that you've wanted to do, but you're too afraid to do. Do it scared, do it anyways. And, first ask yourself what you want, right? Do you really want to do this? Great. Like when I climbed Kilimanjaro, I had women say, "Oh, I could never do that." Do you want to? No, I would never want to do that. Okay, well then change your words, right? So change the way you talk about yourself. So when you want to do something, go out and do it, even if it scares you.
Well, I love your podcast. I really need to talk to my daughter now about, okay, if she can do it, so can we. Let's do a podcast now. And I loved your first book. I'm eagerly awaiting the second one.
Thank you. February 17th, and it's
Okay.
available free pre-order now. There's a bunch of bonuses on the website, realconfidencebook.com. So check that out. And yeah, I'm super excited for it to come out too.
Okay. And how can our listeners connect with you and be part of this whole confidence movement that you're creating?
Yeah. So my website, SimoneKnego.com, SIMONEKNEGO. You can connect with me there. There's a way you can message me on there. You can email me, Simone@SimoneKnego.com. And I'm all social media. Everything is Simone Knego. And then obviously realconfidencebook.com to go check out the book.
And I
And
will,
her Unshakable Confidence podcast. Come listen to the podcast. Come join.
you guys will love the podcast. You need to go check it out. It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
And I will post links to all of those things in the description. And so please go check out, especially the book. The book is I don't even know how to describe it. The book's amazing.
Thank
I
you.
write about confidence and I learned a lot from the book myself. So you need to
Thank you
read the
so
book.
much.
That is it for today's episode. And if you're like me, you are definitely walking away with a little more clarity, a little more courage. I was invited to do Kilimanjaro several years ago and I said no. Now I'm rethinking.
Mm.
I'm 68. Is it too late?
No, it is not too late. It is not too late. One step in front of the other, right? It is not too late.
Well, Simone has reminded us that confidence isn't something you find, it's something you choose. And if that choice feels hard today, start small. Do like she said, speak kindly to yourself in the morning. Give a little gratitude at night. Take the next right step because that's where your power lives. And if this episode spoke to you, please share it with a woman who needs to hear it. Leave a review, tag us on socials. Make sure you're subscribed. Do the stuff, okay? Do the stuff because we've got more bold conversations coming your way. So until next time, stay grounded, stay rebellious, and don't ever apologize for rising.